Perfect. Yes, I see.
Okay, great. So, you know what? This is kind of like an old today template, but I'm
Mhm.
kind of bored of that. It doesn't really work anymore. Okay, so this is just how many notes I created today. I,
Investigations and explorations, I presume, are Project Zettelkasten's, or
no, I've done something crazy.
let's take a
It's
look.
it's not canon, okay, but let's just go to
No, no,
permanent.
this is what it's about. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to check in because what you're doing is this is all brand new,
Yeah,
and you're stretching beyond the 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 beginning steps, and this is how we all learn. And I think this is vital for everyone in the community.
I had this kind of vision, every time you talked about, sorry, my computer is really, really slow.
Mhm.
Uh, keep clicking on permanent nodes, it's not even going there. Wait, okay. Oh, did Rome just die? No, come on, my dear. All right, it'll get there. It's just sort of, oh, there we go. Okay, it's crunching. Okay, there we go. Let me just close the sidebar.
Mhm.
That'll speed it up a bit, I guess. This isn't having to think about that.
I think this might solve the problem of people that are in the sciences.
Yeah, it's going to solve. I mean, it's basically the limitless pill.
Mhm.
We've just extended our minds. Um,
Can you open that first permanent note?
yes, this one.
Yeah, I just want to take a look.
When you say open a permanent note, actually, this was a question that I think Rodrigo asked you.
Mhm.
What do you click on? Do you click
The,
on the tag or do you click on the?
on the actual like text, like
Okay,
instead, like I call that the index. The hashtag would be the index, and then the actual permanent note would be the "We have long been under the spell."
got you. Okay, so there it is.
Perfect. And you scroll down real quick. I just want to take a look at the two locations. I see two link references. One's going to be the permanent notes page. Perfect. The other one's the daily notes page. Excellent. Can you expand out your fleeting and literature notes real quick?
Where? Here,
At the bottom.
here.
For
All right,
March
got
4th. Yeah,
it.
yeah. If you can expand the literature notes and the fleeting notes, I just want to take a look at the summaries or
Let's
take a look at all the inside text.
and all.
Mhm.
So while I was thinking about that, I I had a vision which so every time you spoke about um, um, Project Zettelkastens,
Mhm.
I had this vision of the kind of different streams of my thought,
Yes.
and I really get the idea of like compartmentalizing them to some extent, or like firewalling them, as you say.
Mhm.
But there's also something in me that just wants it all to be able to mix.
I think you can. Lumen did.
Yeah,
I like the only reason that I tell anyone not to is because I don't want that to get in the way of actually building out the main Zettelkasten first and feeling how that feels like. And then once you know what, okay, this is how you hit a golf ball 100% correctly, and then
yeah.
it's like you can do whatever you want, you know. Let me
I
just
had
take a
this idea, which is like, what if I can have the streams flow together,
Mhm.
but still be somewhat identifiable and separable? So basically, I created three different streams. So one is thoughts,
Got it.
one is permanent notes, and one is questions.
Got it.
So what I did is I duplicated the structure of the permanent notes,
Mhm.
um, but with some slight variation. So thoughts is basically um, something. Well, should I just show you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
Actually,
you want
do,
to
do,
look at
do
this?
me do me a favor. Do me
You
a
want to look
favor.
at this first? Yeah.
Go ahead and share this with me. Share your graph with me,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I'll jump on mine.
Right.
Hit the three dots, and then
These three dots.
no, no, on the Rome graph, the three dots next to the calendar, next to jump
Ah,
to
yeah.
date. Yeah, yeah, and then
Okay.
do share.
Sorry, the Zoom thing is in the way. Okay, share. Got it.
And then go ahead and share that with this email address that I just put up.
So I just add you in there.
Yeah.
I didn't actually see that, but it's Bo.
HAAN@bohan.com.
So bohan@bohan.com.
Yeah. And just make sure and then hit enter. And then you're going to see that name populate. Just basically after we're done with our session, just click on that X so you can remove me. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and log on to Roam on my side here. And what I want to do, I kind of want to travel a little bit. Let's call this one. Is this one? P-Lin?
P-Lin, yeah.
Perfect. Let this load up. Okay, perfect. So I just want to take a look at, I'm going to go back to your permanent notes page. Perfect. You have 3 top level parent blocks, it looks like. And then now I'm going to expand everything. Just doing a quick check here.
So do you see that slightly purple box, 4 or 5 down?
Yeah.
Real world predictions?
Yes.
That's a question. So I just did this slight start CSS shading thing. So it's subtle, but it just tells me, okay, this has a different status. And I've changed the relevant notes thing to investigations, but it has the same structure. The reason I call it investigations is that then I can also do a slightly different CSS styling. And so when it shows up in the linked references, I can see right away that it's different.
I completely get it. I just wanted to make sure that you were getting to these points.
Yeah.
There's something about getting to these points that really just, that's probably one of the most powerful things. Like the fleeting notes phase is one of the most understated parts of all this. And I see it and I love it. My question is, why do you even need it to have questions when it could just be a permanent note?
It could. It's just that I kind of like the idea, especially because I think I'm going to have a lot of notes, maybe in quite a short space of time. I like the idea of just being able to quickly zoom into, because they're questions that for me are kind of like research questions.
Hold on. Give me 1 second. Computer's overheating. One second, okay? Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Questions you said for me is?
Well, they're kind of like research questions. And I want to be able to, you know, I have a couple of friends with whom I'm working on some projects that are more like a research group. So I want to be able to quickly come back to those and just say, okay, what are the studies I thought of? What are the questions I thought that we could ask? You see how they come up in the linked references. You can see basically purple is the questions and the green is the thoughts.
How about these two?
I might have just messed something up.
Okay.
You know, it should all be working. It's just the last couple of hours that I've been putting the questions and thoughts in. So some things, looks like there's something fishy going on there. I'll have to check that out. I've got some issues with the CSS as well. I don't want the linked reference background to be white like that, and I've tried to change it, but I can't fix it. Anyway, that's just cosmetic. Please, you had a question.
I'm just playing it out in my head right now. If I open this, what I have is I have the relevant nodes to the Zettelkasten, but then I also have explorations. So if I click on that, it's going to give me all the information that, like, all I really want is the information. It doesn't matter what page it's located on. It's just, if I go into the explorations, like, the most important thing is getting this information in a place where it can be retrievable.
Yeah.
And if I can easily retrieve it, that's the most important thing. My only concern, I'm just thinking out loud here. My only concern would be, what would happen if you went into your explorations or your questions page, right? And instead of just having nothing here, actually building out a Zettelkasten with all your questions in there.
Well, I could. It's just that the questions mostly relate to other things, like other permanent nodes. Questions don't only relate to questions. So in a sense, I'm thinking of the questions and the thoughts as being completely in the Zettelkasten. And so they all relate back to other permanent nodes.
What I hear you saying is that basically what you want is an ability to see which ones are questions and then which ones are explorations and then which ones are actually permanent nodes.
Exactly. It's just a styling thing. It's kind of basically they're all permanent nodes. They're all exactly the same.
I get it.
Visual
Because
traits.
this is on your daily notes page. It's under investigations.
Yeah.
You know, the reason it's coming out like that is because you have this title here at the top.
Oh yeah.
If you brought this down,
there's no need for any of that. It's just how I started. But you can just delete that line. It's not
or
important.
you can do this too. Let me just take a look at March 11th real quick. Yeah, that's why it's coming out like that. And you can't really put it at the top level parent block either.
Yeah, just delete it, because by now it's kind of like that's the way I used to work.
That's a safety net.
Right, because I didn't have the Zettelkasten. And now, with everything being interlinked, I don't need that anymore.
So when it has the timestamp at the top, right? Why do you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them underneath?
Because I just did all of those
at one time.
After 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
For the last 2 hours, it's just been that. I mean, I know it would be better to timestamp them out individually, but I was just in this manic flow, like unstoppable craziness.
So just walk me through this here. So for these questions, it doesn't have a reference, right? These are just your questions that you're asking yourself as you're talking to your Zettelkasten, correct?
Yes. So basically, what I have is a lot of thoughts and notes.
You know what you just did?
Yeah.
You just cracked the Zettel question code.
Sounds cool.
Everyone's been wondering how you ask questions to the Zettelkasten, and it's something that I haven't really, I've always fallen back on, well, it's as you're talking to the Zettelkasten throughout the day, that's actually your questions. But what you've done is you've created basically a new, it's a permanent note, right? That lives in your permanent notes page. But instead of having a reference, these are actually the questions that you have about the notes that are already in your Zettelkasten. And what you're doing is you're elaborating, expounding upon, and questioning the note that comes above it. But it's sort of like, so let me just get this straight though, right? When you're doing this fleeting note, it's like you had a question in mind, but it doesn't necessarily, you don't really know where it's going to fit, correct? Well, actually, this would work.
Yeah. So what the way actually it happened today was, and this is really helpful for me, because I have a lot of stuff that's currently in the form of journal entries, random thoughts, stuff that's just accumulated over the years, but that's completely unconnected to anything else. And that usually I never go back to because I don't know what to do with it. This system gives me a way. So basically what I did today is I took a couple of journal entries, I stuffed them in the sidebar, and they were really rich in thoughts and questions. So I basically took those out. They became the stubs of fleeting notes that very quickly it got elaborated out. And then when it came to actually writing the question, if it was a question, I did it in the permanent notes. So I went into my permanent notes. I traveled through the permanent notes and I found like, okay, all of these things that I've been thinking about, what permanent note do they relate to in the sense of, do they refute something? Do they question something? Is this a way to establish a claim that another permanent note is making? Or is it a counter argument or something like that? So then I put it close to that other note. Yeah, and then thoughts are similar. It's basically, thoughts are, for me, like a permanent note where the reference is my own journal entries and thoughts over the last years. And I just started today and I'm going nuts because I'm finding so much richness in this. And I know I have years of these journal entries, often cycling around the same, similar themes. And I mean, this is it. Like the gates have opened. The floodgates have opened.
This is this is a Zettelkasten. This is what happens when you trust in a Zettelkasten.
Yeah.
Right? Because now not only do you have single sourced material, permanent notes, you have the questions that you're having as you're interacting with your Zettelkasten, and then you also have your thinking that's happening in your Zettelkasten.
I mean, just on the evidence of the last, 3 hours of my life, this works. Like for me, this experience of the last 3 hours has just been like, oh my God, I can finally think. I can actually think and it generates something.
Can you justify why the length of these permanent notes?
I think they're going to come down. I think you can see already, like the more recent stuff is shorter.
Yeah.
And I think the longer ones are kind of cumbersome. And I already had the idea that I'm going to go back to them and basically take half of that permanent note and just chunk it into the fleeting notes underneath.
Why do you have the confidence to do that now?
Well, because I know I don't need to see it. All I need to see is the tag.
By the way, people that are watching, because he knows it. Because he knows the information. Why? Because every time he creates a new permanent note, he's looking back at all the notes that he's already created. Exactly. This is called spaced repetition. This is called actual knowledge building.
Exactly. I know it by heart. I know that whole chunk of text. I'm kind of like, oh my God, because I think the reason I was putting so much in the permanent notes when I started in the shared graph was because I thought I had this, basically it's just an idea that the permanent note is the total distillation of everything that lives underneath it, and that somehow I had to cram everything in there. Now I don't have that. I see that it's nonsense. All I need is a route back to those fleeting notes and reference notes and literature notes. And that,
yeah,
exactly. And as long as I know I can get back there, what's actually in the double brackets of the permanent note is kind of like a juicy reminder, that's got just enough to make me interested to go back in, but it doesn't need to be everything. And in fact, I'm kind of starting to sense the balance, I think, of where the length gets in the way of traversing.
Also, if you add the summaries here, it'll reinforce your trust in being able to have the permanent note itself shorter, because when you do the relevant notes, you'll have the reference literature and fleeting notes summaries all there as well.
I usually do. You've trained us pretty well. I think for most notes, I did summarize. I must have missed one, but mostly I do the summaries because like you say, I've realized how effective that is as a technique.
So now it's thinking about this. Like the question that I would pose to you would be, looking at like this, it's a perfect example.
Okay.
It's flawless. I don't see any problems with it. If anything, you've developed the sort of version 2 where you've put everything together in regards to questions and Zettel questions that everyone's been like
Right.
fussing over, as well as your own thoughts. And I'm going to implement that in the teaching
Wow.
because it's that.
Woohoo!
No, I'm seriously, I'm like blown away right now because it makes sense.
Hmm.
I'm sure I need to sort of
Yeah.
play with how it was introduced into the Zettelkasten, but I don't think it matters because it doesn't matter how it's introduced because it's still continuing the conversation with your dialogue partner.
Exactly.
So the Zettel questions,
It
even
loops
though it's a
back.
Zettel question, it can, you know, where it's going to fall under, and it's not all arbitrarily bottom up. It's like, no, at certain points you need to question that, and you wanted to track what those questions were, and then that is continuing the conversation, not in a top-down fashion, but it's a bottom-up structure, because it's the questions that came up were because of the nested sequence.
Exactly.
And then the same thing goes for your thoughts as well. And so I'm just putting it all together here, and I go, okay, so what would be some obstacles that Brother Spirit might face? And I go, well, first off, there's a part of me that's like, well, anything that he's going to face, he's going to solve it because he knows it. And so no, seriously. And the only thing that I would encourage you to think about now is once you hit 130, 140, 150 permanent nodes, it's going to be like the shared graph. You're going to have a shit ton of permanent nodes.
Right.
And the next part is going to be, how can you index the indexes?
Mm-hmm.
And then basically, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's the question that I haven't solved yet.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I don't have 500 permanent nodes.
right.
You know?
I mean, I feel like partly these kind of like streams of thought, which are for the moment 3, right? Permanent nodes, questions, and thoughts. But that could be more. Like I'm already thinking I will need one for Dharma, like for me, for basically anything that relates strictly to Buddhist teaching and practice in terms of like, this is going to refer to a sutra or a specific, more formal teaching. Like basically everything in there is already relating to my teaching and practice. But
as it should, by the way.
yeah,
That's how you know it's talking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my life. But I know that some things I'm going to be wanting to reference a particular sutra or an idea in a sutra and elaborate on that. And I see that as a separate stream. But because it interconnects with everything, I don't want to firewall it. I want it to live with everything else. But I want to be able to, to kind of like to see the way that branch, how that stream flows through the rest of the Zettelkasten. And so I think of it actually as already that's a very high level index of indices. Because there could be more. There could be science, and that could break down into other streams, and then Buddhism could break down into several, and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And it came from Roy, this comment he made in the Slack channel about, and he was thinking about about importing other Zettelkastens.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, yeah, but if I did that, I'd want to know like that Zettelkasten is not mine. If it's going to live with mine and if I'm going to interact with it. What if it could come in, but I give it a different color? So it can be there and I can relate to it, but I always know like which are my notes and which are somebody else's notes. So that was just an example. I'm probably never going to do that. But even within my own thinking, it really helps me, to have this kind of sense of like the different streams.
This is what I need help with. I need help with figuring out what happens when you have to split the permanent notes page. Because it's going to happen soon.
Well, how did Lumen did it? I mean,
Well, he created after I think it was 5,000 notes, he created a new Zettelkasten.
Right.
And I don't see a problem with that either, because it's all learned anyways. It's basically like everything you've learned. So the reason I'm pulling this up is because we're nearly there with this one.
Yeah, it's getting big, huh?
And again, it wouldn't be so much trouble if it was in our own words, but this is giving you a sense of just how much connection we've made. But you'll notice how there's not that many, like, besides, this is you, by the way, you know what I mean? There isn't a lot of conversations that are going deep. So it's still very shallow conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, my idea was to somehow query or have one of these top level parent blocks split off into permanent notes / writing or something, or something like that. But again, I haven't had the time to play with what that looks like. What I would even recommend is, if you had the time, go to share, export all, export the EDN, and play with, this is enough notes to where you can, so basically you copy this entire database, you copy it into your own sort of shared graph, like private shared graph, and then you just sort of take all this stuff apart. And it's like, okay, well, what happens if I move this over to another page, or if I move this entire branch over to another page? Because essentially this is an entire branch of conversations. And this is a whole nother branch of conversations, but they're still connected.
Right, they interlink
at
a level. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like we've got trees and mycelial networks.
Yes, exactly. That's the underlying.
They're also,
I am going to point people to you in regards to Zettel questions. There's so many people that are stumbling over that, but that's because it's academic. It's highly academic to have sort of Zettel questions and sort of questioning and contrarian ideas and how to attack that. And I feel like how you demonstrated that in your graph is the best I've seen. It's so solid. I think it's unbreakable. I don't see how it can break. I mean, my idea was, what happens if you add the questions into a side questions Zettelkasten, but you don't need it, because really the reason for that question tag is just so it's delineated from all the other relevant notes tags.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can still,
just a quick visual reference just to be able to go, because like there are days when I'm more in the mode of like, okay, so what are the open research questions? Let's have a look at those. Have we tested any of these claims?
That's the genius about it, though, because people wanted to create a page for that. But what you're doing is you're frictionlessly taking the page out of the equation and just going, no, we're just going to change the hashtag. And the hashtag is no longer permanent note, relevant note, permanent note. Now it's questions and exploration, I believe, is what the other one was. Something like that. Yeah, investigations. And those two things, and again, that's infinitely scalable. Like other people might choose other wordings or whatever that looks like, but basically it's following the permanent note structure, relevant note structure. You're just changing the hashtag, which changes how it shows up in the Zettelkasten, and it solves the problem elegantly.
Just think of this. I just had an idea.
That is good.
I just had a crazy notion. It's a bit nuts, but in terms of the shared Zettelkasten that we just created, what if at the beginning, each one of us had our own CSS styling color and tags? And then we'd still do exactly the same thing. We'd all be creating permanent notes, but each one would have our initials on it, or something, or in a slightly different color. So we'd still interlink with other people's notes, but you'd always be able to see whose note is whose. So you could just glance at the whole shared graph and go, that particular shade of aquamarine, that's me. That's where I live in this crazy thing. You could just at a glance see like, oh,
I completely get what you're saying. It would have to be somewhere in the daily notes page. It would have to be somewhere. It would have to be some sort of CSS code in the daily notes page, maybe like a star or something, or a special color.
The CSS would be annoying because you'd basically just have to have as many CSS blocks as there were people.
Yeah.
So the styling would be, but it's just copy paste, and then to give everyone a different color. It's kind of tedious, but I mean, like
it's a template. It's a double semicolon template.
Right. And if you were, for example, doing a shared graph with 5 people, that would be really manageable. Like that's collective mind, man. That's like, you're going to the hive mind, man.
I'm just blown away. I'm just blown away right now. Just, you solved the problem.
Oh man, this is all you.
No. I don't know anything about that field, right? I don't, like higher education and all that stuff. Like that's beyond me. It's not my scope. But to be able to see how you solved it, it's so elegant, and it fits. And just from my experiences, it's like, I'm gonna say it now. It's unbreakable because there's nothing that's changed. It's just the simple hashtag has changed, and that is blowing my mind.
And I was actually thinking, like I could quite easily see that with the questions or my own thoughts, I could have a reference block as well, because quite often it's my own thoughts, but about something, I want to still reference something that I'm thinking of, and the questions too.
Here's a use case. Here's a use case, right? So you've got your critical mass of permanent notes, and then you're walking down the street, you're just waking up, you're about to go to bed, in the middle of the night, you're coming out of the shower, and then you have a thought, and you go, I have a Zettel question. Yep. You capture that fleeting note, you know exactly where it's going to go, you add that following your structure that you just did, that solves the other like 20%. If you have a question, you capture that, you process that, and you put it into the Zettelkasten. You don't need a project Zettelkasten anymore. You're like, in essence, the project Zettelkasten is really primarily meant for just short-term projects or just ideas that you haven't fully fleshed out yet. So it's like, if for some reason you wanted to write a little bit about artificial intelligence, and like it has nothing to do with your graph, and you're not really well versed in it, you don't want to start another conversation, you just have a project Zettelkasten just for that. But wow, that's it, dude. You see, Here's my question. Would you have understood it though? Would you have understood that without having to build your Zettelkasten first? Because I want to recommend the easiest way. I think what you just gave to the world is the last. It's like the last pieces. That's how you, once you have trust in the Zettelkasten, once you have trust in the structure, then the last 20% of all the thoughts and feelings and ideas and questions all go in that simple thing. That is amazing, dude.
No, there's no way I would have got it if I hadn't been through, everything you've put us through. I mean, you've trained us, man. You really trained us how to drill down. I mean, I learned so much at every stage of, I feel like Rome is finally working now. I didn't know what the heck I was doing in Rome before. Now it's like,
you solidified my trust in this system in a way that it's like, oh my God, dude.
But the thing is, like, every time you talked about Project Zettelkasten, I was listening and I watched the videos and I was trying to figure out, like, okay, if I did a Project Zettelkasten, I can see the utility, but what would my project be? And I'm kind of like, well, is it composing? Yeah, but that relates to everything else. So it can't be, I can't separate it. And is it Dharma? No, that relates to everything else. Is it, neuroscience? No, that relates to everything else too. Is it, and I went through the list of all the things I'm interested in. And I'm like, no, but these are all interlinked. Like I can't separate them.
No, you just solved my biggest problem.
Wow.
I there's the last thing that we need now is the output problem.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I know that as a group we'll figure it out. And I'm actually relying on you all to figure it out.
Well,
Just like you just figured out, like you literally put the coffin nail in Project Zettelkasten. You did. In a way where I'm in awe. I'm so thankful because now it's my initial belief in this has been solidified by the sort of that last polish. And it's like, you know what I mean? When I approach RBC4, I can stand on firmer ground.
Yeah.
People are going to be blown away by this.
They are.
They're going to be blown away by your discovery. I'm telling you right now.
In my body, like seriously, if I could describe to you like the last few hours, I was just like, it's just unstoppable. And it's so, but also weirdly, like I wasn't stressed. It was just very peaceful actually, because it's kind of like, this all flows, this all connects. I see, and I trust that I'm not losing these thoughts.
Oh my God, I'm so fucking grateful, dude. I'm so fucking grateful, man. Just, this is networked thought.
Yep.
This is what it's about. And this is just the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And oh my God, I was so wrong. I was so wrong. But I had to get people to realize that was the best thing that I could think of. Just create a Project Zettelkasten. And the simplicity of what you just said. Oh my God, dude. Everyone's going to know your name, by the way. Everyone's going to know who you are because I am on fire for this right now. You literally like, ting, and it's like, clack. Oh, I'm getting a dose of my own fucking medicine, man. Brother Spirit. Oh, this is good. This is good. It's so good.
Well, I'm just like, it's coursing through my veins right now.
I know.
It's gratitude. It's gratitude as well for these last few weeks, for everything you've given us.
You're a goddamn fucking genius. You know that? How quickly you picked up on things, how quickly you solved the problem. Oh. Wow. When they watch this video, they're going to be, I don't even know if they're going to understand it. They should.
Yeah, no, I think.
But yeah. But I don't think I can tell this to the. I have to think about where I'm going to put this now. Because I feel like the reason that it made sense for you was because you picked up on all the other things first.
Yeah, right.
This is like, okay, now I've got my communication.
Yeah, you probably don't want to start with this because it is another level of complexity. Yeah.
My concern is that they're going to rely on just doing Zettel questions and explorations instead of feeling what it feels like to do the nesting first.
Right.
I'll but it's definitely the last. That's the actual last piece. And then the Project Zettelkastens are basically just short-term sprints where you don't want like, hey, I'm working on, this, like.
Yeah, I can imagine that somebody might need a Project Zettelkasten for their job or something. Like if you have something that's quite highly compartmentalized, you're designing a course, you're planning a lesson outline,
you're
doing a sales strategy or whatever. Like sure, firewall it. But if it's like your life and your areas of interest, I don't really like. At least for me, I can't separate them. I mean.
You're a goddamn fucking genius, dude. Oh, you're so fucking smart, dude. God. I read your bio. You went to MIT, huh?
Cambridge.
Cambridge.
England. Yeah, not the other Cambridge.
You're amazing. You know that? I don't know. Like for me, I'm just like, oh, so good.
Well, I just feel like, it was just the last little pink, and then the avalanche.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, no, I just can't wait to expand this further, because like the questions in my graph as well, they're all generative questions. They're not static. They're all kind of like, they all need to be tested. So they're going to lead to other permanent nodes with references.
And then if you can relevant note link your questions in one field
Right.
to another field, and you see how you solve that question in one field,
Yeah.
you can solve it in other. Oh my God.
It's already happening. I mean, there's already questions that are basically arising out of my experience in meditation, and they're instantly connecting with a chain of thought in neuroscience and another chain of thought in philosophy. And it's kind of like, yeah, okay,
That's the solution to the problems in this world. Oh my God, dude. Okay. Well, that's being added to everything that I do.
Well, I really think that
yeah,
as a way of introducing it, if you withhold the questions part, don't tell them about that.
yeah,
But you basically introduce it as everybody has their own CSS styling. So they're doing it, but they're doing it individually.
yeah.
And then as the last piece of the puzzle, you tell them, and now each of you can have your own, separate threads within your own. So we see how we've created a multi-threaded Zettelkasten with all these different colors for all the different people. Now you translate that to your own, and each thread is whatever you want it to be. Whatever one is AI and one is,
So let me just see if I hear you correctly. So basically, when I'm going through and we get to this portion when we're in the shared graph, right? So basically, they're gonna have a custom CSS that basically will hide their name tag or whatever, but it'll change like this button to a different color, like a green instead of a blue, like a faded blue or green or something, right? And so that's basically showing them that they've already been doing questions and explorations.
Yep.
Is that what you mean?
Well, they're basically, so I would say, forget about questions and explorations. They're just doing exactly what you taught us to do, exactly as you taught us to do it. No change. It's just that you can see the all of the different people in the shared graph by their different colors. So each person has a different color. So basically, you have to create a little CSS tag for each.
Something like that, that'll change the color, but not so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did it with, there's two different aspects, because if you want to jump back into my graph, I can show you what I did.
So good.
Because I realized if I wanted to see it in the permanent notes page, then the styling I'd done for explorations and investigations wouldn't show up. They're only going to show up in the relevant notes. In the shared links, in the links.
This part, yeah.
But if I want to see it on the page itself, so those subtle boxes, like this slightly purple box there,
This right here, yeah.
So if you click on that, you'll see that there's a hidden tag at the end of the block.
Ah, I get you. Yeah.
So that's anyway, it's a tag I got from Cato Minor. And
couldn't you yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
The problem with putting it at the beginning is that then it shows up in the linked references.
Yep.
And it messes up. So it still shows up in the linked references now, but it's at the end of the block. So I'm not bothered by it.
God, this is so good. And you have, oh, it's so good. And you bring over all the relevant notes that deal with this question.
Yeah.
And if you ever need to find the question, or if you ever need to find all your questions, it's right there.
They're all there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
without having to create another page for this, it's already there.
Exactly.
It's just blowing my mind. Oh, it's so, you know what, it's the simplicity of it is what makes it beautiful. Because I was thinking like, how am I gonna do this? Yeah.
So they can all thread together,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's this quick, easy way to separate the threads out when I need to.
So good.
Oh, yeah, I have another CSS problem with this. If you search for something, oh, actually on a big screen it won't matter, but
This is so good.
The sticky blocks,
Yeah.
they mess up. They somehow mess up the. They appear above this anything that's in search. Anyway.
So if I go back to the permanent notes page,
yeah,
you said sticky appears here.
If it floats over the top, your screen is big
Like
enough.
that.
It won't
Like
matter.
that.
Yeah, there you go. I don't
That's
know.
yeah. Eric told me about that. We don't, because his Z index is so high. The Z index says, okay, this is going to be at the top level, and the Z index is at 99, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So I could reduce that, but would that mess it up?
So if you look at the Z index here, it's at 11.
Okay.
I mean, if you do it to 3, let's see what happens at 3. It's fine with 3. Let's just see.
Does this still work?
That's better.
Oh, perfect. Wow.
But I would see, let me just double check. I don't know exactly how far the Z index goes. It looks fine.
It seems to be working fine.
Yeah. Let me just see, double check real quick. Yeah. It looks fine. It just, some of this is going to show under.
It's a little more transparent. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the background there could be at 1 instead of 0.96. That last thing, 0.96, I think is the opacity. If you change that to 1, anyway.
There we go. Much better.
It's still slightly transparent, but it's not. It doesn't bother me.
Oh, it's so good.
It just makes it so fun as well. I mean, it's like my
God,
playground
so
now. I want to play. I just don't want to stop. I don't know how I'm going to sleep ever again.
I'm not sure how to change the opacity. Yeah.
Okay. It looks good to me.
And maybe fiddle around with the Z index a little bit too. Maybe that'll darken it up a little bit. I'm not sure. Let me just double check real quick. Let's see what happens if I do 5.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ooh. What happened? Ooh.
Is that better? I think that's close.
I think it is.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Does the search still come out on top?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. I set the Z index to 5, so it looks proper.
Yeah.
But I'll let you play around with it.
Thank you. That's a quick fix.
Oh, dude. You solved that problem. This is so good. This is so good. Okay, so onward, upward. I want to keep checking in with you though,
Sure.
because I want people to see this journey, and I you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That way, that's like they see how you, just practically solve that problem. It's so practical. It's so it's so good, and
Well, I'm happy to, if you want to, I can just leave you with access to the graph for a while. If you want to just
To give it as an example.
yeah, if you want to use it. And I mean, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything there on the permanent notes that I'm, you know, some of it's a little personal, but I don't mind. Like within this group, I feel
I'm the same way.
safe.
Yeah. This video is going to be incredibly impactful because you're going to alleviate so many people that are in academia that I just haven't been able to solve that question. And I was sort of relegating to project notes, project zettles. But you just solve the problem in the best way possible. And the reason that it works is because you understand how this works, you know? And that's why,
Why do I understand how it works? I understand how it works because you taught it to us.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? It's not that you're doing this top down. It's such a fine line between like what Rodrigo was doing with his Zettelkasten and then this. You know what I mean? Because Rodrigo was literally saying this is how it's going to go top down. But what you're doing is no, it's bottom up. But then you have a question now, and now you're going to ask that question top down.
Yeah.
And then you have a thought. You're going to add that top down. It's just it's so fucking good. And it makes explaining this so much easier. Awesome. I got to get ready for the next meeting here.
Of course.
Brother Spirit, just is that what you like being called, or do you like being called FAP, or what do you prefer?
FAP-Lin goes together. It's
FAP-Lin.
FAP is generic. It's our lineage name. So we're all FAP something.
Okay.
Brother Spirit is a kind of English translation of FAP-Lin, roughly speaking. So I can go by either FAP-Lin or Brother Spirit.
Okay. Well, people are gonna start reaching out to you, and if they do, just oh God, blow their minds, dude. Because how you did this is phenomenal. It is, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I get to be a part of all this. You know, yeah.
No, I feel like it's you. It's the whole group. It's all of those shared sessions. It's like everybody else's thoughts and questions and inquiries. It's all feeding back in, and you know, I've benefited so much from the whole process.
God, dude. Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Listen, but it's this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because what you're feeling right now is what I'm feeling, and what I'm feeling is what you're feeling, and it's kind of like it's not even about any of this. This like it's so much bigger, and we're at the forefront of delivering this to the world, and it's just like world changing.
It's the printing press, man. It's
it is the Gutenberg revolution.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, I'm so grateful for you. Truly am. And I'm gonna send people your way because you're at the front lines of this. Okay. Project Zettelkasten. There's a lot of people that have questions about Project Zettelkastens. They have a lot of questions about conversations and questions and Zettel questions and Zettel thoughts. They're getting sent over to you. So just be aware.
I might, just as a warning to everyone who's watching this, I am literally going to disappear for about 10 days. I have a book deadline, and then I have a monastic retreat. I'm going to be like offline for at least 10 days. But after that,
I love you for this, man. I truly do. I'm so grateful. And thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
This is just like, this is a game changer. It's a game changer.
It is. No, it's the last piece. It's literally like, it's the crystallized thought. It's like, okay, let's go. You know what I mean? Let's build. Okay, I gotta go, Brother Spirit. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you soon, okay?
Thank you, Bo. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.